Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to your Cancer new moon report with me, Raphael from Radiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. Quick note, these readings are for the general energies, trends, and themes that are showing up around our lunation of our dear Luna. This new moon in the sign of Cancer is happening on July the 17th, give or take a day or so, wherever you are in the world. And it's happening at 24 degrees of the sign of Cancer. So this is Luna's new moon effectively because it's happening in her sign, right? And what I find really interesting about this as well, it's happening on a Monday, Moon Day. This is her day of the week. So I think this is going to be quite a powerful one, especially because the new moon is a time of birthing things. This is where we're laying seeds, sowing seeds. It's where we are setting those intentions for future, endeavors to come to light. Now, many astrologers use the 2-week cycle for the new moon to full moon. I personally have found that for myself, when it comes to manifesting things or creating things, that 6-month cycle. So this new moon, whatever you're setting into motion, you're likely to be getting the rewards, the efforts, or the collection from around the time of the Cancer full moon, which will be at the end of this year. Now, this new moon is a time of birthing. This is where the sun and the moon come together, right? So when you get masculine and feminine energy come together, this is effectively it's a conception point. So in such a harmonious connection to Neptune, which is wonderful, it's also got a wonderful connection to Uranus. I really feel that this is going to be something new, something very new, but also potentially idealistic and potentially spiritual in nature. Forgive me, as many of you know, it's allergy season. It's currently driving me insane. Whatever is being birthed right now, though, it comes directly out of the unconscious or the subconscious. And the reason I say this is because of that connection to Neptune. Neptune's in Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac. And so it speaks to this energy of whichever house Pisces occupies for you. This is the collective unconscious. And so whatever comes through at the moment, it has this creative, weird, and wonderful texture and energy to it. It's powerful and it's potentially life-changing and paradigm-shifting. And the reason I say that is because this moon is also in a really nice connection to Uranus. And I say that because Uranus doesn't do the same old same, right? This is new, novel, different, even if it means disruption to the status quo. Neptune is creative and idealistic and magical and spiritual. And sometimes it's kind of like the soft focus. So, you're not always seeing, Neptune is a filter, right? I'm sure you've had this, you go on a date with somebody and then when you see them in real life versus their heavily filtered pictures, you're like, okay, this is a little bit different. Neptune can have the same kind of effect on things and people. So I do think that this is a great energy for all of us. I do think it's going to be a wonderful energy, and I think whatever's being set into motion will be great. I just feel that it will have that weird and wonderful vibe behind it. Now, that in mind, the new moon is a dark moon, so you do have to consider here, when you delve into your unconscious, what are your own motivations here? What are your, see what creative energies and essences are calling your name. This is water energy, but it's water energy with some substance because of that connection to Uranus, which is in Taurus, which is a tangible energy. So not to mention there's a cardinal and fixed kind of energy in the air. Cancer is a cardinal sign, but Taurus, that energy of Taurus is fixed, right? And there's a lot of other stuff going on. We've got, Venus is in the sign of Leo. She's obviously doing her thing as well. There's this cardinal fixed energy like in the air at this time, and it kind of feels like whatever's being set into motion, it has a somewhat difficult or challenging birth because there's a challenge to the old guard. Whatever has been is being challenged now. Even still, I think it's wise for us to move ahead. The moon is in squares to both the north and the south node, which effectively means that we are moving towards something that we really feel fated, pulled, and destined towards. But we're also releasing something in order to make this happen. It's kind of like, I know what I'm gonna, once I take the power and the energy out of this, it has to go into something else. And Luna is facilitating that change. especially because Cancer is the sign of birth. So really, really interesting stuff. So in its aspects, the aspect that this moon is making in the sextile to Uranus, this is a harmonious aspect. So this is a good supportive energy for Luna, but it's going to pack a punch, right? And it might create potentially some kind of erratic or destabilizing move. It might also create a bit of a culture shock. You know, this will definitely be for us on a personal level, on that microcosmic level, but certainly I think on the wider world stage, we will see this and we'll feel it as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this is around food, housing, women's issues, all potentials. All of the above is probably sort of more likely. This will it will start now, but it's going to get louder as it grows as we head towards the end of the year. It's likely to be potentially recurring stuff or the final move towards resolving them, especially because as we get to the end of the year in October, we've got the final full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus. So as if that wasn't enough, the full moon is going to be opposing Pluto. So Pluto's now back in the sign of Capricorn. It's retrograde at this point. This is a potentially transformative energy, right? So the moon is we the people, Capricorn is the government. So everything that's happened here in the UK, at least, I feel this is going to be the start of some kind of change or reformation, especially due to the previous kind of aspect that I mentioned between Uranus, right? So this is potentially buried feelings, seeds planted that will bring change, transformation, and the death of things that are no longer beneficial for all people involved. What I also find interesting here as well is the sign of Cancer, as I said earlier, is known as the gate of birth. The High Priestess is like a literal depiction of the first gate that we enter into the world through. Right, so whereas the sign of Capricorn is known as the sign of death, right, or is known as the gate of death. Now, Pluto, the lord of the underworld, and transformation and death is literally in that sign, which means the final nails in the coffin of that top-down BS that we've all been kind of hammered under is likely to start to really unravel now. So this is going to be where that Neptune connection really starts to speak to the idea of women will be slaves, mistreated, held back, or held down. No more, right? The heat has been turned on underneath the water. The new moon speaks of that, but we're going to see it sort of start to come to a boil, and I think it's going to get interesting. Now, in the trine to Neptune, here we see the birthing of something that's coming through the subconscious. Pisces is the subconscious, and as I like to typify it, this is the collective unconscious. It's a very creative and spiritual energy, and one of self-sacrifice, you know, for whatever the greater good sort of requires effectively. So that's the reason that I feel like this new moon is one of creating and calling forth something that we truly desire, something that we really love, something that we feel like we're meant to create. Saturn is in Pisces, and basically like this is me in Pisces, right? Because I'm an Aquarius, so I'm experiencing this transit as well. I can feel myself constantly using that creative energy, but in a very slow, steady, and sustained kind of way. Yes, Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius, but Saturn is the original ruler of Aquarius. So Neptune and Saturn are both in that sign, and they're working in tandem to help us understand what it's going to take to build our dreams in reality on solid ground, to channel an idea from spirit and bring it into matter. That's the combined powers that they're offering us in the sign of Pisces. So as Neptune at this time is trine to the moon. So what we're envisioning comes directly from that spiritual subconscious, that spiritual sort of collective consciousness. And the moon is a potentiating force. Mum, Luna, dad, the sun, right, are coming together. They're copulating to create something new. In the sign of birth, Cancer, which means that something is being birthed. Something is, Neptune is shining its rays on that Cancerian energy from the mystical realm, is ensuring whatever is being conceived is infused with a spiritual essence. So, you know, that's beautiful. But the distortion that potentially arises here, especially with everything else that's happening, it might look like it needs a sacrifice of, you know, women or some kind of feminine energy in order for that to happen. No one's going to stand for it, right? And they really just won't. I kind of feel that it's going to be quite sort of solid. It may be that we're, you know, that an awful thing is highlighted around women's issues and it creates some kind of big change in, you know, in general. Now, finally, there's two more aspects to this moon. The square to Chiron, right? Chiron is in Aries. This is all about what it has cost us to be ourselves in some specific area of our lives. And in a square to that new moon, I get the feeling that some thought and some kind of thought and fact is kind of squaring off. It's almost like it stops working. A crab will literally snap its own limb off in order to get away from or move forward with something, or even in sheer distress. So there's a potential for self-sabotaging around this new moon. And remember, a new moon is a dark moon. We've got that connection to Neptune. So you could be seeing something quite distorted at this time. So be really gentle with yourself, right? Especially because there is that potential for the self-sabotage. Be kind to yourself, especially when you're trying to understand what it is that you're building or what it is that you're bringing into the world. Be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up about what it's going to take or what it's going to mean you can't do for somebody else, because there's this potentially self-sacrificing energy in the background, and it's like, oh well, you know, it's cost me this to be this and all the rest of it. There's a potential for that. And then finally, this new moon in square to the nodes, right? This is a difficult birth of some kind that is going to be a part of our lives. Whatever the case might be, you're being invited here to get serious about the possibilities of your future and releasing the past. It's like what it requires for you to move from nostalgia and fear to empowerment and foresight. I'm going to say that again, right? This is about what is required of us to move from nostalgia and fear to empowerment and foresight, right? So picking the past versus the future. So let's get into some cards and breakdowns for all of the 12 signs. So for Aries, this for you, so I also want to mention here as well, remember, I use tropical whole sign Western astrology. So that's the system that I use, just in case you're wondering, you know, how am I getting this stuff? I've found that this really works for me. Obviously, if it doesn't speak to you, leave it alone. All right. Now, check these from your ascendant sign because they're likely to be the most accurate on that day-to-day level. And let's get into it. So for Aries, this is happening for you in the 4th house of home, family, children, and the career are all being stirred up for you at this time at the moment as well, especially because it's like a difficult beginning in the home and family sector that encourages you to start talking about, or thinking about at least, your past self. Maybe even like your inner child requires, you know, what your inner child requires from you to really move forward and succeed. This could actually be about some sort of deep sort of emotional healing that happens, but it's like it unfolds over time. There's a potential for financial blessings that come from this new moon as well, especially if you're willing to release like old habits, break certain expectations that have come down to you from family. Chiron squaring this new moon from your 1st house is seeing you really reconsider what your family have cost you and where you're not happy about it, like where you won't stand for it any longer. This is the chance for release from some kind of old hurt or old wound, but it's like it will require you keeping an eye on the future and moving ahead with your own plans. So for your card, I would like to bless my deck of cards with forms of love, like peace, prosperity, and abundance. And I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise, and they help you on your path to your highest vibrational good. So you have the 10 of Cups, which is like literally the card of home, family, etc. And this basically says, because this card is like the 9 of Cups on steroids, effectively. And so it gives you a chance to make a real powerful healing when it comes to your family, your familial ties, and or connections. So I really love that, because the tarot is backing up what the astrology is saying for you. There's a chance for tremendous healing here. So for Taurus, this is happening for you guys in your third house, right? So your daily experience and your communications are definitely being refreshed or rebooted here in some way, shape, or form. And it's likely that a communication that comes in from the past might really shock you. Uranus in that trine to Pluto, especially with the retrograde in your ninth house, there's a really deep meaning to this that's only really going to reveal itself as you sort of move forward over this next 3 to 6 months. If you've had any issues or challenges with siblings or neighbors, this could potentially see them start to ease up moving forward. And it might be it might come through some kind of shared challenge that you have with neighbors, right? So something happens in the locality or in the neighborhood or even in the family, and so you and your siblings or you and your neighbors have to pull together. I actually really like this, because it might also unite you with someone that you once had a problem or an issue with. For this, you've got the Seven of Swords. So this tells me that you're likely to find out or be given some piece of information where you realize you've been lied to. And it's almost like by getting that information, it allows you to kind of see the situation between you and another person, maybe a sibling, maybe a neighbor, etc., in a very different light. And it helps you make the situation between you and this person much better. So for you, Gemini, this is happening in your second house of money, finances, resources. This is changes that are coming to your finances with this new moon, but your resources sector, your self-worth is shifting, and in a really powerful way, especially in a way that gives birth to a stronger financial outlook. It could also be that there's contact from the past from someone that you worked or studied with. And it might be just as easily be a situation that arises with work or reminds you of an old goal that you once had and almost released. So this is almost like it's giving you the push that you need to gather your energies and redirect them. There's a possible more emotional proactiveness here as well, especially for you more than most of the other signs, because there's a schooling of your emotions, which allows you to expand and grow in really powerful ways. Networking is what you guys do best. And, ensuring that it's focused, and maybe a surprise face that pops in where you just kind of, with the right amount of shake up, to use this new moon to create something for yourself that actually really enhances your financial experience over a period of time. For this, you've got the Devil card. I actually feel like this is you getting really, really obsessed with the whole money and finance thing, but in a really positive way, in a way where you're like, okay, I need to get focused about this. And if it means I kind of have to really cling to this and get really seriously into it, no problem. I can do that, right? This is you getting into that healthy obsession, if anything. And I actually think that could be really good for you. So for you, Cancer, this is this is your new moon, right? You get one new moon, one full moon per sign per year. This is your new moon. This is a new moon in that first house for you. This is your moment. Your ruler, Luna, is being recharged and refreshed. And this is like, even though she does this once a month, this time it's happening in your sign. So this is like, this is the first house for you. And it suggests that there's connections to benefactors, people who can help support you in some way, shape, or form. It might also be that there's a surprise in some way that seems a bit almost like chaotic, but like when it comes to making money or making money from or through other people, it's like it's disruptive at first, but then it turns into your favor very quickly. The changes that we've all been seeing and feeling for Cancer in career might really start to be felt over this sort of time period. Especially when it comes to how you see yourself, what you want for yourself in terms of like your legacy in the world. You're starting to understand what your career has asked you to sacrifice, and maybe you're now making different choices about whether you're okay with that or not. There's also a powerful and potential transformative energy behind this, especially when it comes to partnerships, relationships, and all manner of one-to-one connections. So this could be quite hard for some of you because it will require a really deeply cathartic exploration of yourself and where and how relationships have kind of come up to play for you and what they've cost you effectively. For this, you've got the Tower card. So there's likely to be some kind of very big realization or some kind of understanding that comes in that has you kind of say to yourself, well, holy shit, you know, I didn't realize that this actually was the case, or I didn't know that this was one of the dynamics that was playing out because it was unconscious to me until this moment in time. When you see the Tower show up over the course of this next 6 months, I think it's going to be the moment that you need in order to really step forward. So set intentions based on what you want for yourself at this new moon. For you, Leo, my ascendant brothers and sisters, this is in your 12th house, the past, privacy, the hidden space. This new moon, right, there's not long now. This new moon is the most hidden part of your chart. And it's the space in your chart that really connects you to the other realm. A new moon here might see you deciding that you need to change something. But it's like, because of that Uranus in the 10th house, this might be a knee-jerk reaction to something. Be careful here, especially because in the 12th house, we find our self-sabotaging behaviors. So you could undo yourself if you kind of go too far. This is about building some kind of security for yourself that your inner child always needed. And it centers around home, status, family in some way, shape, or form. This is you. I actually think for a lot of you, this is you going in for something that you kind of say, you know what, this is what I need to be stable and secure in order to really excel in my life. And I'm not, it's like you're not wavering from building that thing. Everything else, everyone else, right, takes a backseat to this kind of deep inner drive that you have. It's also possible here that you're being asked to birth something into the world that maybe you're afraid to share with the world for being judged. You know, maybe you're dreaming something into being here that has the potential in some way to go further beyond you than you realize. The challenge is going to be that you're completely, you're going to have to completely transform your daily working habits, your routines, the rituals that you go through, right? This will probably be where you have to make some big change or adaptation. You might even find some kind of spiritual wound that needs healing so that you can start sharing your journey with others, and maybe even, you know, a significant other for those of you that are partnered. And for those of you that are single, maybe there's somebody that new comes in that, you know, as part of this. With this, you've got the Hanged Man. So you really are, right? Like, this card actually represents Pisces energy. It's actually Neptune. And so out of all of the signs so far, this basically tells me that you are channeling something directly from spirit. You are bringing something out of that ethereal, intangible world, and you are really, it's working through you so that you can build something tangible. You might not understand sort of what that really looks like or what the process is, because whatever it is that you are building, it's likely to go further beyond you than you realize at this moment in time. So, you know, like fluffy stuff. For Virgo, this is happening for you guys in your 11th house, a new moon in the space of friends, groups, connections of the wider world stage. I love this. We're starting to get a clearer idea of how to leverage the connections that you've got. I will consider here, though, as well, like, you might decide to expand something here, and either it doesn't have the effect that you expected, or maybe it removes your autonomy in some way. So, like, maybe you tie yourself to a group in some way and it kind of takes on a life of its own, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm not really sure what to do with this now. Now, Mars is newly in your own sign at this time, so it's giving you passion, energy, drive, focus. It makes you it makes you powerful, but it also makes you potentially a little bit forceful at the moment. So if people say, like, you know, you're acting a little bit out of sorts, that probably is the case, all right? It's not a bad thing. It just means you have to find a way to channel that. There's a chance here for you to get clued up on something in a new, exciting way that really gets you sort of fired up. It might be a little bit shaky to start with. New connections, new partnerships might be coming in here to assist you with this as well. So it's like you've got the support that you need, but at the same time, it's still something that kind of really, you know, sets you kind of almost a little bit on edge. You're needing to ensure that all of you, like, you're on that same page, right? That transformational energy of Pluto is coming to you through romance, creativity, and potentially children. It might also be like a revelation within those areas that with the right amount of irritation to get you serious about adapting who you connect to, and more importantly, who you associate with. For this, you have the Lovers card. So this card represents your sibling sign of Gemini. And I find it really interesting that you've got this because it does speak to that whole connections with others. Usually this is more sort of intimate partners, but it can also represent choices and decisions. And so this suggests to me that there are choices to be made when it comes to your friends, your connections, your groups, and your associations and the ties that you have. It will be interesting to see how this plays out specifically for you guys. So for you, Libra, this is a new moon in your career sector, in your 10th house. This is a chance to start afresh, right? This is a chance. It's also helping you consider a career, a legacy in the world, or your personal status, how other people see you. And most publicly is the 10th house, right? So me fulfilling my 10th house, radiant reality is me doing my 10th house. It might be as well for some of you, maybe you've recently decided that you want more from this area in your life. And if that's the change, if that's case, if that's the case, right, it does suggest that this transformational sort of moon energy could really help you achieve it, especially because this is opposing Pluto in the 4th. That means some kind of deep emotional shift is happening for you at the moment, and it's awakening you to what you really need to shift and, you know, what needs to change for you. There's also a surprise support here that comes in from other people when it comes to making money, especially in like a passive income sort of capacity, or hiring other people. This could be very good for you. The challenge, though, in all of this, that one-to-one relationships have been revealing themselves to you where they've limited you and where they've supported you. So it's like whatever you're birthing into the world through the career, you're doing so in a way that's like new, novel, and potentially even very spiritual. For this, you've got the Knight of Swords. So the message here is to take your time, slow it down, right? Because it looks like you're coming in all guns blazing, and it's a little bit too fast. It's a little bit too sort of bam in your face, and you're being encouraged to kind of take a minute to slow it down. So for you, Scorpio, this is happening in your 9th house, a new moon that falls in the house of spiritual matters. Before that, though, there could be an exciting connection to the world of travel, right? This might be a time where you start connecting to and focusing more on foreign cultures, different places, immersing yourself in travel or connections to foreign lands or distant places might bring untold joy to you right now, and it could really help you expand your mind and your horizons. There's also likely to be like a transformative energy to your mental realm, and it might even be like it forces you to learn something new. Maybe a gift or some kind of surprise, comes from a partner that really helps you understand how blessed you are. It's like your path through to the spirit effectively comes through another person, and it comes through some element of gratitude. Your daily routines and life, maybe even your health and vitality, and how they kind of limited you in some way or hampered like your growth or your expansion might be a really acute consideration at the moment. So it's almost like you say, you know what, I would have been further along my path if I hadn't always had this chronic health issue, or, maybe my mental health hasn't been great. And so that stopped me from really going for the big time in some aspect. It's like, because you see it around the time of this new moon, you'll see it internally before you see it externally. You're able to address something here and maybe take it, you know, when they say like, let go and let God, you're able to address something here and you're able to take it up to spirit, to God, to the universe and say, okay, look, I'm ready to transcend this now. Help me. With this, you've got the Seven of Pentacles. So you're basically being told it is going to be a process. You're going to have patience. You're going to have to really dig in and do the work here, potentially for what looks like no rewards to start with, until further down the line when it really starts to show up for you. The other thing with this Seven of Pentacles as well, you have to consider that this is the greatest time for you to invest in your expansion of mind and spirit than ever before. So for you, Sagittarius, this is happening in your 8th house, right? So in the 8th house, we find our proclivities. Yes, you know, obviously we find those in the 12th. Those are more the self-sabotaging stuff, though. Whereas in the 8th, we find our taboos, our sexual and sensual primality, right? This new moon has an element of helping you understand your own psychological motivations. It also helps you understand what pleasure is to you, this deep-seated sense of self-realization, and also allows you to amplify and harness your own sexual power, your own sexual prowess, and even direct that towards something other than that, right? So if you know anything about Kundalini and prana and stuff, if you can channel that energy, that sexual energy, into a specific goal without the release or the, you know, the good stuff that comes from it, that is, you know, that energy that we're talking about there creates life. It creates us. We're all the product of that. So if you can focus that energy to a goal or something that you want to manifest, it has no choice but to become. Now, this could be towards money, especially because the 8th house is other people's money, finances, and resources. It could also be you deciding to take charge of a debt situation that has been a plague of some kind. So this could be a discovery of some kind of sexual or tantric healing method. It could also be a powerful insight that comes from like a communication that you have in like a really mundane place. So you maybe go to the bank, maybe go shopping, you know, you go to the gym or whatever, and you have this really profound conversation with somebody, and you're like, holy crap, you know, like I never expected to be having this conversation here in, you know, in the milk aisle, but here we are discoursing on all of the wonderful things in the universe. Such is Sagittarius, right? Your emotional intelligence is going to spike at this time, giving you great powerful insights into the magic of family and how the power of your heritage can be used to enhance your life. You're dreaming something that you feel deeply emotionally connected to into being at this time, and the chances are conversations that you have with family members, it might also be where you show, it might show you conversations that you have with family members might show you where to look or where it is that you need to lean in. With this, you've got the 8 of Pentacles, and it's potentially with or through the work family. Doesn't necessarily have to be like the actual family, although I feel like it will be for a lot of you, or even that you look at your family and say, okay, now I understand why I'm the black or the rainbow or the whatever sheep, right? In my case, I always say the rainbow sheep. So yeah, that's for you, Saggies. For you, my dear Capricorns, this is happening in your 7th house of relationships. Now, at this time, Pluto is back in your sign for one final round at the moment, and it's like this will definitely have seen you having a resurgence of some kind of thought or thought process around your body, around health, maybe even a flare-up of some kind for potentially for some of you. Whatever, like what factors in here is this new moon is in your relationship sector. So if you have issues with or around relationships right now, it's potentially that they're coming from you. And if you're having problems with your physical body, check in with the health of the relationships that of people that you're tied to in a really deep way, because that may give you the idea of where it is that you need to work or where the work can be done. There might be a feeling of needing to choose between a partner and family in some ways for some of you. I feel like as well, for some of you, maybe family are interfering in a relationship somehow. So it's like there's a clash there, right? Now, the support and care that you need comes from romance, pleasure, and joy. And there could also, for some of you, be a secret crush revealed at this time. It might also be that you're partnering up with someone through your work and connections. And as such, it gives you a solid sense of support, and it's helping you envision the right connections that you'll need in order to succeed in your future. There's a need and a desire for more fun here, more pleasure, more romance. And it looks like it's like you'll have that at all costs. And you say to yourself, you know what, I'm birthing this new version of what relationships and connections and friendships actually look like when they're healthy. For this, you've got the Knight of Cups. That is a solid offer that is either on the table now or comes in for you very soon. And it will be one that you feel like you can actually work with. Almost like you say to yourself, like, wow, you know what, this has come in and actually, I know I can work with this. I know I can make this a viable thing for myself. So for you, my Aquarius sun sign brothers and sisters, this is happening in your 6th house. This is a fresh start in that 6th house space in your chart, promising new health, new lease on life, and it's also offering you a completely changing and restructuring of your daily routines and habits, right? This is about you redefining the small steps that create those big wins. This is maybe putting a new routine in place. Maybe you're starting to get more serious about how you utilize your time in those incremental moments. There's a surprising boost as well that comes in from home or family, or there's potentially some very good, helpful news that helps you channel your emotions in a really powerful and positive way. The transformational energy of this moon is happening across your maintenance axis, right? So your 6th and 12th. Pluto is in that 12th house for you, asking you to get serious about your spiritual health and vitality, and also your spiritual cleanliness. It can also be a revealing of a hidden enemy, or at the very least, someone who doesn't wish you as well as they say they do. Now, there could be a tough conversation with a sibling around this time as well, especially if you have, if you have siblings. It could just be the case of you deciding to put yourself first, and maybe it doesn't get a great response, right? Finally, the thing that you're dreaming or envisioning into being with this new moon, it's a way to approach life that makes money easily, effortlessly, and it doesn't require so much of your presence or your hard work. That Neptune is finally going to work for you in that 2nd house. And for this, you've got the Page of Pentacles. This tells me that a lot of your business ideas, a lot of your practical applications, the things that you're doing on that day-to-day level, even the things that you're studying and the things that you're learning on the job, whether this is just through the school of life or whether through your actual work, it doesn't matter. It means that you're gathering really important intel and you're putting it to use in a very practical way that is going to make really big changes further down the line. So finally, last but not least, for you Pisces, this is happening in your 5th house. This is all about fun, pleasure, romance, in the connection to your modern ruler Neptune in your 1st house. This is helping you see yourself in a brighter and kinder light. It's also helping you extract more of the good things out of this new moon. It's providing you, it relies on you dropping into your heart and swim in those Pisces oceans, right? Those deep sort of inner currents of your own magic. This can really help you uncover your own spiritual power, but it's through fun, pleasure, romance, and play. And the transformative energies of this new moon are happening across that connection axis. So Pluto in your 11th house, this could be reconnection with an old friend who was more of a frenemy than anything else. It might also be that there's it helps you break ties from a friend or a group because you realize there's no way to take them with you to wherever it is that you're going. That could be the hard element of this, right? And it will likely be something that sort of unfolds over this next 3 to 6 months. The new moon here as well could also see you thinking very seriously about a financial cost that feels like a burden of some sort, right? Maybe feels really challenging. And it could be like where you have financed something or someone that actually isn't your responsibility. And so you kind of say to yourself, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. Now, good unexpected news is coming from or through your job, especially on that sort of daily level. And it might even be like maybe it shares a new perspective on your up leveling in some way, shape, or form. There's a need here for you, and maybe even a desire to gain new information or to change your worldly endeavors and your worldly endeavors and affairs. So it's like how you move around in your locality, who you connect to in your local neighborhood or area, and also how you connect to, you know, foreign lands, different or distant spaces is also being highlighted to you, right? There's a lot of potential here. For this, you've got the Ace of Swords. I've been saying this for a while for you guys. I feel like this is new interviews, new connections. That Ace of Swords does suggest that through understanding what pleasure and enjoyment and romance really are to you, whether you're partnered or single, you're going to start to really understand where it is that maybe you've denied yourself for too long and you're not really willing to do that any longer. So that is what I have for you. Thank you for bearing with me. I apologize about all the snuffling and wiping my nose. It's so grim, I know, but it's hay fever season here in the UK. As you can see, my eyes are swollen. I've at this point, I am sort of messed up. So thank you for your patience. I really hope this speaks to you. Let me know in the comments how it shapes up for you. I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Take care, and I'll see you soon.